Richard Sherman reportedly open to signing with the Seattle Seahawks. And according to NFL media, the Seattle Seahawks reportedly open to a reunion. This one has many layers and levels that I investigated last night. I mean, on the surface, setting aside any other potential motivations that we will talk about fully and completely, does it make sense at this stage of Richard Sherman's career to want to go to the Seahawks? Does it make sense for the Seahawks to want him back after 3 years with another team?
I think that's a good question. I mean, one, I would say it does make sense from Richard Sherman's standpoint. I do think that makes sense. You know, I think he's kind of found out that the market is not quite what he was expecting for his services. I think he's kind of hit that reality. So I don't think there's any team he's going to turn down at this point. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's open to anything. Like, please sign me. Somebody give me the money somewhere near the ballpark of what I want. Now, they're still running that same defensive scheme. And when healthy, you know, Richard Sherman's good. He's good. You know, the Super Bowl year threw everybody's perception out of whack. You know, everybody was ranking him again as one of the top corners in football and all of that. And that was ridiculous. He was real good, not great, and he wasn't one of the 5 best corners in football that year. No, he can't sit there and play man-to-man against the best receivers in football at this point of his career. But he can bring something to that secondary. I mean, when healthy, like I said, there's still a lot of good play there. And, you know, they're a team that you look at them and you go, corner is an issue for their football team altogether. They have a real need there. Now it's just like, Mike, where I think you're hinting at, do they want to deal with all the other stuff? I don't know. I don't know. What's that relationship like? How close are Russell Wilson and Richard Sherman? I don't know. That's all things that kind of like percolated through my brain when I heard these type of things.
Well, and that was my first thought. I mean, we know it's well documented that there was acrimony at times between Richard Sherman and Russell Wilson. And we have to rewind to 2012 when Wilson shows up as a third-round draft pick, becomes the starting quarterback. There is natural resentment of a guy who does that and who has that vibe of company man and go Hawks. We've said this before. There were veterans back in those days that would mock him behind his back for go Hawks. They would say it in a high-pitched voice behind his back. You know, he in any workplace, there's the one guy who is so good, his mere presence makes others look bad.
Yeah.
And there is natural resentment of that guy. That's the way the world works, and that's who Russell Wilson was early in his career. And then you fast forward to 2014 season, Super Bowl 49, early 2015, Marshawn Lynch, battering ram down near the goal line, game on the line, chance to repeat as champions. What do? Instead of running the ball, they call for a pass. As Marshawn Lynch said on Turkish TV, he doesn't like to talk about that story very much, but he did talk about it on Turkish TV. He thought that, hey, Super Bowl MVP, face of sports in America, somebody didn't want me to be that. So Russell Wilson throws the ball, it gets intercepted by Malcolm Butler, and that becomes something that players on that team, certain players on that team could never get over, and Richard Sherman was one of them. And 2017, right, when after that season ended, it was time to purge all of the Russell Wilson, I don't want to say haters, but they made it Russell Wilson's team. And I'm told that one of the reasons that they're not slamming the door on this, it's a little bit of a, hey, Russell, you know,
yeah, you don't run the show around here.
Two can play at this game.
Yeah.
And
I get that.
And we insulated you from guys like this. We ran off guys like this to make it your team. And now you're going to do this publicly? Well, maybe it won't be your team anymore. Maybe we'll bring back one of the guys who wasn't afraid to say you effing suck when he intercepted a pass that you threw in practice, which Richard Sherman did, and he's admitted to saying that.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot of true things there. You know, yeah, I mean, one, yes, I do think there was some resentment towards Russell Wilson when he first got in the door because, yeah, everyone kind of went goo-goo and gaga over it. You know, remember when he got drafted? Whoa, third-round pick, and, oh, quarterbacks this short don't get drafted. They can't be successful. I mean, he was a little bit of a lightning rod topic there. And then, of course, he starts as a rookie and he did some good things as a rookie. And that was, again, we've talked about this so many times where there a lot of the guys on the team a little bit can have, resentment towards the quarterback anyways, because it becomes all the attention about him. So that does annoy certain guys in the locker room, let alone, I think, a team like that had really strong personalities, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And I think they were sitting there going, wait, like Russell's good. We get it. But this team is like Seattle, Legion of Boom. The defense is what's making this thing go. I mean, Russell Wilson didn't have to do a whole lot for them to win that first Super Bowl, if you can remember. And not to take anything away from that, but I'm sure that led to that, let alone Russell Wilson is not, he's not your typical, hey, let's come over and hang out. I'm going to barbecue and we're going to play video games and drink beers and do all of that kind of stuff. I don't think he's that type of guy either. So he doesn't welcome himself to the locker room that way. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you don't have to be that to be a successful quarterback. But I think it did add to that. And then the Super Bowl thing on top of it, Mike, you're right. I think there's some of that there too. Let alone, I think Darrell Bevell was trying to make a point too about like, hey, look, I'm a great offensive coordinator and I want to be a head coach and all of that. So I think that all played into it. And this is interesting. It's slowly going to turn this year to not Russell Wilson's. I just feel like it's over. This is the last year. Maybe he still gets traded around the draft time. I don't know. But I just feel like it's over there in Seattle.
Source familiar with the dynamics told me that ultimately the belief is the Seahawks won't sign Richard Sherman because they won't be able to pay him what he wants.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's what it all comes down to. He's going to have a number in mind that he's not going to deviate from. He doesn't have an agent to tell him, hey, if you want to play this year, you're going to have to soften your expectations. And, Chris, I'll go back to something that I've said multiple times. If Robert Saleh is not at the front of the line to sign Richard Sherman, to help him implement his defense and create a positive impression on young players that are going to be learning that system and just be his guy, be my eyes and ears, be my lieutenant in the locker room. If he's not at the front of the line to sign him, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? He's been his defensive coordinator the last 3 years, his entire time in San Francisco. The mere fact that the Jets haven't been mentioned, even mentioned as a destination, should tell any other team something. Right? I don't know why I'm choosing my words carefully. I guess I don't want to get into any Twitter fights with Richard Sherman today or any day.
Yeah.
But this would apply to anybody. Look, I mean, Solomon Thomas was available, and Robert Saleh didn't make a beeline for him. I just think that those things are telling. When you have a coach who's trying to implement the best way he can his system in a new place, and he's got guys that he just coached, that he just worked with, whose efforts helped him get that job, and he's not rushing to bring them with him, I think that tells us something.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I'm not going to say I totally agree with you there. I think you're right in some aspects. I do think, too, sometimes when you're a new coach like Robert Saleh, too, he wants his defense to create its own identity and some of these guys to step up to be the next Richard Sherman, knowing that a Richard Sherman might only be around for a year or two. And, hey, he's a strong personality. He's a star in the league. So he's one of those guys, too, that, they could feel, if you're a new coach, you could feel like he could kind of squash the personalities of some of the other guys we have in the secondary who are young and up-and-coming leaders and doing that type of stuff. But I think also your point is very real, too, Mike. And really, you can go farther than that. I mean, come on. How many damn Seattle coaches are around the league coaching defenses right now? I mean, with Dallas, Dan Quinn's there. We don't hear them talking about him. I know he did go visit the Raiders and did all of that, but
did he visit the Raiders?
I thought he went there and
visited the
maybe
Raiders.
I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
No,
maybe
Gruden
there's the
tampered with him publicly.
Thing. I don't know why I thought maybe he visited there at one point early on.
There was a connection to the Saints. There was a connection to the Saints because of Chris Richard, but that kind of came and went.
Right. So, I mean, again,
I think once he found out what the Saints had budgeted, that went.
Yes, and again, this current market, I just can't imagine him getting much more than, I don't know, $4-5 million, maybe not even that at this point. You haven't played a lot of football in 2 out of the last 3 years, and the 1 year, yes, was good, but as we explained already, come on. I mean, that was like a remarkable defense that year by the 49ers. It was one of the better pass rushes we've seen. It was a better pass rush than the the Seahawks had during the Legion of Boom. I mean, that was up there with like the Broncos of 2015 type pass rush, what the 49ers had that year. So that makes life easier at corner too. I think it's going to be one of those where he waits a while and finally realizes it, and then a team goes, okay, here, and he kind of just comes to the realization.
I've danced around this before, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. It was my understanding heading into the 2019 season where he did have the rebirth fueled by the pass rush, was second-team All-Pro, was a Pro Bowler, unlocked millions in incentives under the contract he negotiated for himself going into the 2018 season. It's my understanding if Jason Verrett had stayed healthy, Jason Verrett was signed to replace Richard Sherman, and Sherman was going to be gone before week 1. I don't expect you to say anything because you know Kyle Shanahan, but it's my understanding from people other than you that Verrett was brought in so they could move on from Richard Sherman after one season. They were ready to move on after one season, and then he had the big season in 2019. They kept him for 2020, and Richard's always been the one who's said, this is over, I'm moving on, and the 49ers haven't said anything. The 49ers are not unhappy for him to move on, and I'll leave it at that.
Mike, I've heard the same things you have, and I can say that because I didn't hear them from the 49ers. I know other people in the league and things like that. So
I just don't want to put you in a bad spot.
I know, I hear you,
because everyone's going to think you got it from Kyle.
I know, I can't say anything about them with them thinking that, and I try to tell everybody all the time, like, the guy tells me nothing about his football team. It's really rare that we even talk about that, and especially this time of the year when, hey, his life is important and he's trying to figure out a lot of things. He doesn't want to tell me, Johnny Big Mouth, TV guy, what his formula is. So that's not going to happen. But I heard from, some people in the league, those same type of rumors there, that, yeah, if Verrett didn't get hurt, that Richard Sherman could have been in trouble. There's no doubt.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.